The phone rang again, a hard metallic scream that made the little house feel smaller. Dorothy Jane Scott paused in the hallway and reached for the receiver with a hand she kept steady by force of will. She had learned to answer as if nothing were wrong. Hello? Breathing, first, slow, deliberate. Then the voice she knew too well, syrupy one moment and poisonous the next. Are you there, Dorothy? I've been watching you. He would describe her red scarf from that afternoon, the way her hair fell when she locked the shop, the route she took home. Other times, he promised violence in a whisper, like a secret he could barely contain. For months, the calls had stalked her life, squeezing into the quiet between work and caring for her 4-year-old son. By May 1980, the voice felt as constant as the tick of the clock. Dorothy was 32. She lived with her parents in Stanton, California, working days as a secretary and bookkeeper at 2 small Anaheim shops co-owned by her father and a family friend. She was the good one, the person who remembered birthdays and picked up extra shifts without complaint. Dating hardly interested her. Even her friends could not imagine anyone who disliked her. Yet the caller knew her movements too well to be random. He said he loved her and wanted to take care of her. Then, in the next breath, he threatened to cut her to pieces. She told her mother, Vera, and confided in a co-worker, Pam. Police advised caution, but without a name, the voice remained smoke. On the night of May 28, 1980, Dorothy drove to a late employee meeting. Her parents watched little Sean at home. The meeting ended after 9. In the parking lot, Dorothy and Pam noticed their co-worker Conrad cradling a swollen, angry red arm. He winced and tried to wave it off. Dorothy would not have it. She offered to drive him to the emergency room at the UC Irvine Medical Center. Pam went along. Doctors suspected a black widow bite. They treated Conrad and kept the group for observation until just before 11. Dorothy stayed calm and practical, the same way she handled everything. Make sure everyone was okay, then get them home. Outside, the lot smelled of damp asphalt and cut grass from the hospital grounds. Dorothy told Pam and Conrad to wait by the entrance while she brought the car around. She waved and walked toward the far row where her white 1973 Toyota station wagon sat under a streetlight. Minutes later, headlights swung across the curb. The Toyota rolled toward the entrance. Then the engine roared and the car shot forward. It streaked past the doors without slowing. Pam and Conrad watched, stunned, neither quite processing what they were seeing. Maybe she had remembered something at the nurse's station. Maybe she would loop the lane and return. She did not. Hours later, the Toyota turned up in an alley miles away, gutted by fire. Dorothy was gone. Detectives from Anaheim and the county began with the last known facts. Security staff remembered nothing unusual in the minutes after Dorothy walked away. Pam repeated what Dorothy had told her about the calls. Investigators canvassed the shops where Dorothy worked, checked parking lots, combed the route between the hospital and her home. There was no sign she had chosen to leave, no evidence of a second life or a sudden break. The simplest explanation was also the most chilling. Whoever had terrorized her by telephone had taken the step he had long rehearsed. A week after the disappearance, the phone at the Scott household rang again. Vera answered. The same voice asked if Dorothy was home. Some calls came soft and coaxing, as if he were a loved one checking in. Others arrived edged like a knife. He said he had killed Dorothy. He would call when Vera was alone, as if he were watching the house or tracking their schedule. Police tried traces and recorders, but the caller hung up quickly, cutting the line before the equipment could lock on. The family began to dread the phone as much as they hoped it might carry news. The case reached the local paper, and not long after, a man called the newsroom claiming responsibility. He said he had seen Dorothy at the hospital the night she vanished. He used words like love and betrayal, as if the murder were a private argument the world had misunderstood. His certainty bled into the public record, then retreated, leaving only more questions and one unbroken fact. He knew details he should not have known. Seasons turned. Tips came and faded. Detectives compared notes, traced the calls they could, and re-interviewed anyone who had crossed Dorothy's path in those final months. Friends replayed small memories for meaning. A lingering stranger by the shop door, a car idling one evening too long across the street, a sense of being watched that was easier to dismiss when life still felt safe. None of it led to a name. The voice kept its grip on the family's routine. Vera answered out of habit and out of faith, because mothers do. And after each call, she sat very still, steadying herself for the quiet that followed. In August 1984, a construction crew working in the Anaheim Hills uncovered bones on a scrubby slope above a service road. Near the remains lay a turquoise ring and a wristwatch. Vera recognized the ring immediately. Tests confirmed what her heart already knew. The remains were Dorothy's. The coroner could not determine the exact cause of death, but the timeline of dread had an end point now. For a moment, the family felt the peculiar relief of certainty. Then the phone rang again. The same voice asked if Dorothy was home, as if time had learned nothing. Investigators tightened their circle of possibilities. The caller had tracked the family for years without showing himself. He understood when Vera would be alone. He seemed local, or at least close enough to move through their world unnoticed. He had likely watched Dorothy at work and learned her schedule from the rhythms of the day. Opening, closing, lunch, the last customer drifting out at dusk. He may have approached her in the parking lot at the hospital. He may have been waiting in the car. None of those sentences produced evidence that could be held in a courtroom. People built theories to survive the void. Some believed he was a customer who had twisted a brief kindness into a fantasy. Others suspected a man on the edges of Dorothy's life, someone who knew her name perhaps, but not her. The most painful thought was also the simplest. He might have been a stranger who decided she belonged to him because no one had told him otherwise loudly enough. With time, the case gathered dust, though detectives still revisited it, hoping new tools might squeeze meaning from old signals. Sean grew up with photographs and stories, his mother laughing in a backyard chair, his mother balancing a checkbook at the kitchen table, his mother's careful handwriting on a note for the babysitter. Vera learned to listen for the first breath on a call and hang up before the voice could unspool its script. The file gained pages but not answers. The most complete portrait they ever had of the killer was his behavior. Patient, controlling, precise about fear. He wanted to be felt, not found. The case lives now in the space between memory and record. There is no arrest to point to, no trial to reconstruct the minutes between a hospital doorway and a burning car. There is a ring, a watch, and a line of phone calls that set the terms of a family's grief. Somewhere there may be a name waiting for the right question or the right kind of luck. Until then, the story of Dorothy Jane Scott is a story of a life interrupted and a voice that refused to let the interruption end. It is the dread of a phone that rings in the night and the stubborn hope that one day it will ring with the truth instead. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.